Let's film a YouTube video. All right, well, hey guys, my name is Miranda. This is my first YouTube video. Feeling a little silly, but I'm gonna talk to you guys about some whips that I have. I have a couple knitting ones. I have some quilting. That's it for today. This isn't all of them, it's just the ones that are the most active right now. I just went through all of my underbed storage and learned that I have a lot of projects that aren't finished. So I won't get to most of them probably before I die. Okay, so current whips. This is the Halibut Sweater. Obviously you've seen it before. You will see it again. I'm using a Malabrigo Arroyo in this really beautiful color that I am obsessed with. And then a green, what's the yarn? The wrapper's here somewhere, I didn't throw it away. Plucky Knitter, Primo worsted in like Best in Bloom or something. So I started this months ago. I got the idea for this in August. It's March. One of my coworkers wore a really sick sweater and cardigan combination. And I was like, I gotta make a sweater about that. So I've been thinking about it forever. I found these yarns. Thought I was gonna have to give up because I finished one ball of the Best in Bloom and I was on a no yarn buy month, so I couldn't go buy yarn. But I was like Googling, it was sold out everywhere. I went to my local yarn store, we had one ball left. So, here's what I think about this sweater. I'm not having fun knitting it. The floats are so long and it's just like, oh my God, it's so much color work. So maybe I just don't like doing color work yokes, which is a new thing I'm learning. I guess really the only color work I've done has been the porcelain sweater and some color work stockings that I did for my family this year. I don't know, just maybe I'm just not good at it yet, so I don't like it very much, but I'm getting some bunching, you know, when I'm doing my increases. I don't know if you can see, it's pretty tight on my needles. Yeah, I'm getting some bunching and sometimes you can see the floats behind it and maybe that'll block out. Obviously there's the whole thing with the yoke being really long that everyone and their mother has talked about. I thought about doing an alteration where I would split earlier for the sleeves, but I think I'm just gonna do the pattern as written. I did a smaller neckline or a tighter neckline with a crew neck, and I did a folded edge because I'm really into that. So I'm thinking if it really does drape out, I can put elastic in. And I don't mind a deep yoke. A lot of my favorite sweaters have deep yokes. So those are my thoughts on the Halibut sweater. I just picked it up after a while. And so my interest in it is renewed. That's the inside. And once I finish the fish, it's just stockinette, which is gonna be awesome. So I just gotta get there. But right now, I'm over it. Whatever, I'll finish it. The next one I'm working on is her. Was this sitting in a pile on my floor before this? Yes. Did some of the stitches slide off the needles? Yeah. Are they gone forever? Probably not. I don't know. Okay. This is a petite knit pattern. Hey, sue me, I'm a petite knit girly. She makes good basics. It's the October sweater. I'm doing it in this really pretty maroon, purpley, We Are Knitters Touch Me Mohair, held double, on 3.25 millimeter needles for the stockinette, and then 2.75 for the ribbing, which is down some needle sizes from the pattern, but I'm a pretty loose knitter, so I usually am sizing down. I didn't gauge swatch for this, but this is the second time I've knit this pattern. The first time, well, was in a completely different yarn, and I used different needle sizes, but I don't know. The first time I knit it was this, also purple. It's really cool, like blue and orange. This is a Ciro. I don't know the yarn. I'll figure out the yarn. I'll put it on the screen. I love that sweater, and I wear it all the time. It's really easy. It's just a sweatshirt, sort of, you know, you throw it on. It's got really wide arms and a split rib. So the second one, I'm making it in a smaller size, so the body will be narrower and longer. It'll just be another basic little sweater. That's all I have to say on that. I just have to do the front rib, like probably looking at it now, about 2.5 more inches. But that's not sparking any joy, so I won't do that today or this week probably. This is on hold until I need these needles for something else, and then I'll finish it. Next. So this next one I started, this yarn I bought, and then I found a pattern for it, and I started knitting this brioche cardigan. I think the Viveka cardigan by Agio Knit. I started that, and the brioche stitch was taking forever, and you couldn't really see the definition because it's in this very, I don't know, fluffy yarn. I just wasn't into it, and I didn't gauge swatch, so it was huge, like massive, probably 20 inches of positive ease, more than I needed. So I frogged it, and it's been sitting in balls for a while, but I want it to be a cardigan. I want a little red cardigan that I can put on with the white t-shirt and jeans. I'm just a girl in the city. So I'm doing the Petite Knit Eva cardigan, which is just stockinette, and it's gonna have ribbing on the bands. I started doing this in a size medium because I don't want it to be this huge oversized cardigan. Here's the thing, didn't gauge swatch. What? Crazy. So I think the sizing is wrong. I think that it's gonna be bigger. I think it's gonna be bigger than what I'm hoping for. So right now, I'm about halfway through the raglan increases for my size. And what I might do is put it on a stitch holder and just try it on and see how deep the raglan's going. Well, then we can see. You wanna hang out while I do that? I will say these barber cords are awesome. I paid $30 for a set of them, and then immediately found out that you don't have to do that. That you can just buy it online for far cheaper, which I personally would recommend. Okay, something I'm learning is that I need to hit the end of this row before I can try it on. So you guys are gonna hang out while I do that. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about my knitting. I've been knitting for about 5 years now. I guess I learned back in high school. I went to knitting club for a couple weeks, and I got a set of round needles and a ball of yarn from Hobby Lobby. I started knitting a scarf. I couldn't remember which side was knitting and purling, so it sort of became striped textures, if you will. Wrong side, right side, then I would switch around. And then I lost that, I don't know. I love to start a project and then set it aside for several months. It's a theme. You'll get used to it. At least I never get bored. So I set it aside for several months and then I lost it and then I just never bought needles again. And then in like February of 2020, one of my best friends in college crocheted a lot, so she taught me how to crochet. And then I suddenly was like, I used to know how to knit. So I went to Michael's and I got a ball of chenille yarn and I knit a beanie. I didn't follow a pattern. It was too small for my head. And then the pandemic happened. And so I was doing online college, getting an online acting degree in my childhood bedroom in Texas, and I was nannying, and you know, I needed to be doing things with my hands. So I think that's when I got really into knitting. And most of the stuff that I made then was not wearable or really ever finished. I started a Harry Styles cardigan that I finished, and then it was massive. I chose the wrong yarn for it. It was like roving basically, so I felt bad. Well, the last few years, maybe 2 years, I've been doing this weird thing where I sort of take my measurements and then knit the right size, which is crazy. I'm trying to make garments that I wear and I love. And you know, I go through periods where I knit more often. I work in a job where I get to knit on the job pretty regularly, for at least part of it. I work in theater, but I'm dressing a show that's long and has fewer costume changes. I get some good knitting done. So I have a couple sweaters that like I knit during the run of Carmen last season, or that I have a Carmen sweater and I have a Magic Flute sweater. I do some garment sewing, but I work in costumes and I touch clothes all day at work. And so I have I'm less interested in doing it at home right now. But I got into costumes partially because I used to make a lot of garments at home. So I'm sure that some of that will come up. I have a shirt that's half finished currently at my sewing machine. That's also why I have a pile of laundry that I'm looking at. So I do laundry all day at work. I don't really want to do that at home. Okay, we're almost to the end of this row. I guess I probably should have checked to see if this was in frame the whole time that I was knitting. It's my first video, cut me some slack. The needles I use for all of my projects are the Chagos with the red lace. I splurged on an interchangeable set. I had to get a coupon. I used that and I got the interchangeables. I really like them, especially for Magic Loop, which just recently got into. Right. Okay. All right, we're gonna tie this from front a little bit. Thanks for going on this journey with me. I thought this was gonna be more interesting to watch. This isn't even, yeah, there's so much, if you guys can see how gathered it is back there. Ooh. I should go ahead and split for sleeves. I'm way under the stitch count, but nobody's really in charge of me. Cool. Well, this cardigan is gonna be done in like 17 seconds. That's how long it took me to knit the yoke. So basically, this is the Eva Cardigan by Petite Knit. I've done maybe half of the yoke and I'm ready to split for sleeves. And in her defense, I didn't gauge swatch, nor is this really the right size yarn. I think I'm using the right size needles, but that's it, so whatever. I'm gonna split for sleeves for that in a second. Okay, next sweater, last sweater we're gonna talk about today. I have to knit this. I don't know that it's really my style. It's certainly not something I would pick up in the shops, but I needed it. I needed to knit it, so maybe I'll knit it and then give it away. It's the Spectacle Strick, stripe overload polo. Hold on, let me hold it up so you can see. I'm doing this in the superwash. It's the Cascade 220 superwash. The gray yarn was left over because I knit my coworker a dog sweater, and I had white left over from stockings. So here we are. I'm gonna have to buy more of both. I'm never gonna wear a black and white sweater, right? Well, that's not true. Maybe I will. I've never worn a black and white striped sweater, but I was talking to one of my knitting friends here, and I was like, ugh, I could never do a horizontal striped sweater. And she said, what, did you watch too much What to Wear? And I said, maybe so, maybe so. It's so satisfying to knit, and it works up so quickly because I'm always like, oh, I'll do one more stripe, and then here we are. So that's my knitting works in progress. We're gonna move on to quilting. There are fewer, and two of them are almost exactly the same. The first one we're gonna talk about, I'm gonna let these people pass. I live on a corner, so it's loud, I'm sorry. Okay, oh, let me put my vest back on. How are you guys gonna know I'm a maker if I'm not wearing a vest that I knit? This is my favorite thing's knitwear, probably. It's like one of the first garments I ever finished. It's huge. But I'm into it. I started this quilt years ago. It's Quilty Love. It's the Starry Pop by Quilty Love. This is one of the blocks. These all fit together. They make these beautiful sawtooth stars. This really cool pattern with blocks behind it, right? And it's this beautiful fabric collection in colors that are just like so satisfying to me. I've used it for several things. I was really obsessed with it for a while. These are the colors that are recommended in the quilt pattern. The fabric that's recommended in the quilt pattern. I think I bought, you know, like a fat quarter set or something and cut it up. Here's the thing, right? I love this fabric. I love working with this fabric. I think the colors are so satisfying. They don't really fit the vibe of my home. So I work on this and I go through spurts where I'm like locked in, I'm quilting all day. My neighbors probably don't love it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I go through these phases where I'm just like slamming it through on my machine. And then, you know, I'm like, I don't know if I like that. Where would I put this? And then I stop. So I want to finish this before we get to summertime, maybe. I probably won't. I don't know. It's not high on my list of priorities, but it's out. So I'm thinking about it a lot. And really, I'm at a point where all I have to do is put the entire quilt top together. All the blocks are already made. I just have to iron them. All I have to do. But it's very satisfying, and it'll be really fun to lay it out. Something I learned in my sewing journey, when I grew up in Texas, right? There's a lot of space. We had a house with a lot of space. And that's where I sewed, mainly, during the pandemic. And so I would do like all of this work that was huge, and I could lay it out on our big ass dining room table, and I could lay it out on the floor and do stuff. And now I live in a tiny shoebox apartment in New York that I love, but there's less places for me to lay stuff out. So that also contributes to me making fewer garments. It's less fun to spider crawl around the floor of your kitchen than it is to cut stuff out on a table. Who would have thought? Okay, next quilting work, actually the next two quilts, we're going to talk about them together. Both of these quilts are English paper piecing projects. Again, started this during the pandemic. I came across a lot of them on Pinterest, and hexagons just fit together so beautifully. So, I started using fabric that my grandmother gave me from a trip that she had taken to Japan before I was born. So I started making these hexagons. You wrap the fabric around, it'll be easier to see on this. You wrap the fabric around the hexagon, you do little basting stitches, and then you do a tiny little running stitch and you attach them together. You're not gonna be able to see this because I'm using thread that matches. You take the papers out and it's this beautiful hand-pieced quilt top. So I started it using fabric that my grandmother had passed down. It was just scraps, you know, that we had. Some of them are actually in this quilt. That's my baby quilt from when I was born that my grandma made for me. You can see, you can't see. On the back corner on one of them it says Anne Graves Facet, which is Latin for Anne Graves made this. Love my grandma. So that's the first one. It's sentimental. It's one of those projects that I'm gonna have forever and just be working on forever. If I don't finish it, I'll haunt my children until they do. The other one is exactly the same, except it's Liberty of London fabrics. And this one I've been on a kick sewing them together recently. So we have a lot of flowers made. So I've been sewing them into these units of 7. And on the back, I've been taking the paper out of the middle so that I can use it to make more hexagons. These ones, you can see that I didn't cut the fabric into hexagons. So the back is gonna be a little bit more messy than on my other quilt. I bought a Cricut specifically so that I could cut fabric for this and paper. And then I did this Duckadilly fabric subscription box that sent me a couple fat 16ths of Liberty London fabric every month. Because they were so small, I would get more pieces out of them if I cut it into squares. So here we are. These are all of the flowers that I've made for this quilt. I have to do a lot more. So again, this is gonna be a project in the background all the time. This is the rest of my cutout fabric for that. There's a good chunk in there. For the navy blue one, the first one, I calculated how many hexagons I would need to make, I think, a king size quilt. Hey, girl, what? And then I made them all. So I have a shoebox full of hexagons for that quilt. The other one I'm chilling on a little bit, and I'm doing it a little bit less intensely. So, and the bright colors are really nice. Also, navy's not really the vibe in my home, so I figure I'll make it and then I'll give it to someone, my sister. We'll see. Anyways, that's it. Those are all my projects. This is a new venture for me, making videos. If you have thoughts, if you have ideas, if you have things you would like to see, I love making things, and yeah, I'd like to talk about it with other people. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time. Okay, bye.